Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. I have some good news for the Saints, and I have some bad news for the Saints. The bad news is the Saints will indeed play Deshaun Watson this season. He's gotten an 11-game suspension, just in time for him to play his old team, the Houston Texans. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Which means Deshaun Watson will have 3 games before he has to play the Saints on Christmas Eve. Because instead of going up against Jacoby Brissett, they will probably go up against one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league, Deshaun Watson, on the road. That's the bad news. The good news is the Saints defense gets to knock the living crap out of him on Christmas Eve. But I will say this. Deshaun Watson, as talented as he may be, and as more difficult that game is to win now for the Saints, he hasn't played since 2020. And then he's not going to be allowed to practice with the Browns until week 11. He can be around the facility, I think, in October, but he cannot physically practice with the team until week 11. He cannot start playing until week 13, where 3 weeks later he will play the Saints. So, Deshaun Watson, who is as rusty as they come, if you saw that preseason game, he hasn't played football in over 700 days. And it'll be even longer once he finally does play. He will not be at preseason games, practices, nothing until November. And he probably won't get first-team reps until the week he's allowed to play because the Browns have to, try and win those games with Jacoby Brissett. That's a lot of rust. That's a lot of rust you got to shake off until you play one of the league's best defenses in the Saints. I've heard so many former players say, look, you can practice by yourself all you want. You can do walkthroughs, all these kinds of things. You can even practice, with the starters throughout that entire time. But nothing gets you ready for a football game like actually playing a football game. Nothing. So, do I favor the Saints on the road in Cleveland? Right now, I do not. Seeing as it's in cold weather, and the Saints are a warm weather indoor team, and it's against Deshaun Watson instead of Jacoby Brissett, yes, that's still a tough game to win, regardless, because Cleveland does have a really good roster outside of Deshaun Watson. So no, I don't favor the Saints right now if I'm placing a bet, but I like the Saints' chances even more because Deshaun Watson is so close from shaking off that rust, and the Saints defense will guarantee be elite this season. Okay, speaking of practice, it can be hard to decipher who is really good in camp, okay? So if you're watching a practice report or practice videos, if the defense is dominating your offense, well, does that mean that your defense is really that good or your offense just sucks? If the offense is dominating the defense, does that mean that the offense is that good or the defense just sucks? This is called the camp paradox. What do you trust? So in these situations, the philosophy that I like to use is, what do we know is true? What do you know is true? What do we know for a fact? So if you know that your cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore, for example, is really good based on all the previous seasons he's played, well then if you bring in a rookie wide receiver or an unknown guy in training camp who's going up against Marshawn Lattimore and dominating him in camp, or at least holding his own, well that means that you know that rookie wide receiver or that unknown free agent is actually probably pretty good because he's going up against what we know is true. And that applies for every position battle in football. And this is why I love joint practices within the NFL, because you get to hit somebody different, you get to go up against somebody different, and you get to go one-on-ones with different players who you know are good. It's allowing for more of these questions to be answered. So the Saints practice against the Packers this week, who they will play in preseason game number 2 tonight. And the only defensive back group, secondary group, that could be rated ahead of the New Orleans Saints, based on it, all the analysis, based on all of the analytics, the stats that the NFL puts out, the DB room of the Green Bay Packers. They arguably are the only ones that could have a case to be better than the New Orleans Saints this season. And Chris Olave, the rookie wide receiver, has been dominating the past couple of days against that Packers secondary. Michael Thomas, shaking off the rust, coming back from an injury, has been dominating like his old self against that Packers secondary. If there was any question about, well, is Chris Olave for real? You know, he was great in college, but is he for real at this level? Or is he just a speed guy? Or can he do a little bit of everything? If there was any question of, well, can Michael Thomas ever really get back to what he was before his injuries? Those questions could not have been answered any more than what they were this week against the Green Bay Packers in practice. Outside of maybe playing games in season, this is the best thing you can hope for in a practice. And with Chris Olave specifically, you saw how easy it was for him to get open underneath and all over the field. Not just down the field passing, not just a speed guy to go vertical. Everywhere. He was doing a little bit of everything. He was showing his diversity as a player. The Packers secondary, according to practice reports that I read, would just lose him in coverage and almost looked confused. Olave made some good contested catches. He's not just a vertical speed guy. He's going in the middle, short passes, yards after the catch. He is not just the vertical speed guy that was drafted to be that role on this team. He's doing a little bit of everything. And that was the best answer you could hope for in this practice with the Packers. Now, the only thing we have left is Jameis Winston not playing. He participated in everything except team drills 11 on 11. But all of that, to me, and from every report that I've read, seems to be just a precaution. Now, what do we also know? We also know that Aaron Rodgers is the MVP of the NFL. And all the practice reports have said that a lot of different players on the Saints defense are making plays. This defense for the Saints is going to be as good as advertised. And it's not just Tyrann Mathieu or Marcus Lattimore, the big stars that everybody knows in that secondary across the NFL. It's Bradley Roby is making a play. Paulson Adebo, who's been dominating all of camp, he's making plays. Marcus May, a breath of fresh air. The other safety who's coming off of an injury from the Jets, right next to Tyrann Mathieu. He's making plays. And others. I mean, so much so that Aaron Rodgers and the wide receivers were pissed off that Aaron Rodgers had to bring his guys together. And they had a little come to Jesus moment where Rodgers sort of teared into him. Because they were so frustrated by the offense's performance against that Saints secondary. Now, I know, there's some concern of Aaron Rodgers about he doesn't have a true number one wide receiver, but still, it's Aaron Rodgers. And the Saints were dominating, absolutely dominating, on their practice field in Green Bay. Now, I know players don't always like joint practices. I get why they may not like them, but as a fan and as a guy who, analyzes this stuff, I love them for reasons like this. It answers so many questions. Now, as far as the game Friday night tonight against the Packers is concerned, James Hurst, who's probably going to be your starting left tackle this season, he was pulled out of practice this week on Wednesday, I believe, because he kind of hobbled. He seemed to kind of hurt his ankle or some lower extremity. But Nick Underhill is reporting that it's nothing serious. He probably won't play Friday, but it's nothing to be concerned about. It's just your regular camp nick, especially with the offensive line. Happens every single offseason, every single preseason. Just part of the game. But as a result of that, Trevor Penning, who also got a little nicked up, but he went right back in and started practicing, he got even more reps against the Packers Thursday, which means Trevor Penning is going to probably get starting reps against the Packers Friday night and go deep into the third quarter. As I've said before, Trevor Penning is as talented as they come physically, but he still has a lot to work on with his pass protection, particularly slowing down and not rushing it. Well, the only way to slow that down is just do it so much that it eventually just becomes natural. Well, looks like Trevor Penning will be getting a lot more reps against the Packers Friday night. I don't expect him to, show leaps and bounds of difference than he did a week ago against the Texans. But if you're developing him to eventually take over James Hurst, then he needs to do this as much as possible. The only thing that Trevor Penning needs is more reps, and he'll get a lot of them tonight. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.